we have completed discussing about the classical theory of management propounded by F.W. Taylor, in which he believed strongly in the application of principles of science in every activity of a manager. Taylor focused his attention more on the shop floor level, and he believed that if the shop floor is concentrated fully, if the shop floor functions perfectly, the organization as a whole will definitely do well. Now, going to the modern theory, what's called as general administration theory, propounded by Henry Fayol, who was a general practitioner. He was into administrative line. So, his theory is called as general administrative theory. While Taylor felt the importance of shop floor, Fayol felt the top level management should be strengthened. If the decisions taken by the top level management are good, are correct, automatically the entire organization will function very effectively, is the belief of Henry Fayol. He propounded 14 general principles of management. These principles focus more on the role of the managers. Now, let's discuss about the various principles propounded by Henry Fayol. Now, going to the first one, the principle of division of work. The principle of division of work says, how much ever capable a manager can be, he cannot do all the work by himself due to his physical capacity. He cannot do all the work himself because there are many activities to be completed. So, he cannot concentrate on every activity. Therefore, he has to divide the work into small achievable units and assign the work to different workers. The workers do the same work again and again. They become specialists in doing a particular job. By effective division of work, the manager is able to bring in specialization in the activities. The next one is authority and responsibility. What do you mean by authority and what do you mean by responsibility? Authority is the right to get the work done. And responsibility is the obligation to complete a particular job. Obligation on the part of the manager to complete a given task, So, authority is the right to get the work done and responsibility is the obligation to complete the given task. Now, authority and responsibility are like two sides of a coin. They both should go hand in hand only. Authority should not be more than responsibility and responsibility should not exceed the authority. If more authority is given and less responsibility is given, the manager tends to be autocratic. More responsibility given with less authority, the work will become ineffective. The manager will be inefficient in completing the job because he has the responsibility to get the work done by the subordinates. But he doesn't have the authority to correct them. He doesn't have the authority to make them do the job. So because of that, what happens? The workers will not listen to the superior at all. Therefore, authority and responsibility should go hand in hand. They should be parallel to each other. The next one is the principle of discipline. The principle of discipline says that there must be regularity in doing a particular job. Any activity in the organization should be done in the prescribed manner only. There should not be any violation of the instructions that are given. Now, how to bring in discipline in the organization? Discipline in the organization can be inculcated only when the manager sets himself as a role model for completing the job. So, he must be a disciplinarian by himself to make the workers complete the job. So, only when he reports to organization on time, when he monitors the work of the subordinates, will the workers report to organization on time and complete the work with the given time. So, discipline expects the managers to be disciplined. The next is the principle of unity of command. The principle of unity of command says every subordinate should receive instructions from only one superior at a time. To avoid chaos, confusion, and dual subordination, it is advisable that the subordinate receives instructions only from one superior at a time. Then only he will complete the job effectively and efficiently. If more than one superior gives instructions, he will not know whose orders to follow first. The next is the principle of unity of direction. All the activities of the organization as a whole, all the efforts of the employees should be directed towards one particular goal, that is achievement of organizational goals. So there will be only one head and one plan to be formulated towards which all the efforts will be directed. So the principle of unity of direction says the efforts of all the employees will be directed towards the achievement of the goal of the organization as a whole. That is what is called as the principle of unity of direction. The next is the principle of subordination of individual interest to group interest. Every individual joins the organization with certain goals to achieve. The organization as a whole has certain goals to achieve. Now, every individual must realize that after satisfying the goals of the organization, can he satisfy his personal goals also? So, if any employee receives any benefit in his personal capacity, which is going to be contradictory to the goals of the organization, he must prioritize the organizational goals before than the achievement of his personal goals. So, he cannot allow the personal interest to dominate the organizational interest. Personal interest can be satisfied after achieving the organizational goals. The next is the principle of remuneration of employees. No doubt, no employee works in the organization for the satisfaction of doing a particular job. Every employee works with the aim of earning his income. So, the employee should be given a fair wage. What is a fair wage is very difficult and delicate to define, because what is fair to the employees may not be fair to the management and vice versa. The management should decide the wages that to take into after taking into consideration the nature of the job, the qualification required to do a particular job, number of hours the employee has to stay in completing the job, the complexity of the job, the financial resources of the organization, the pay package offered by the similar companies of the industry. Taking all these things into consideration, the remuneration of the employee should be taken and should be fixed. And they should ensure that it covers the cost of living also. The next one is about the principle called centralization and decentralization. Concentration of a decision-making authority at the topmost level of the organization is called as centralization. So, if the top level management feels that all the decisions should be taken only by the top level management and the information and instruction will be passed on to the middle level and the lower level, that they have to complete the given task, then it is the process of centralization. On the other hand, the outlook of the top level management is to make the employees at different levels capable of taking decisions. Then the top management can gradually reduce the load on the top management and give more authority responsibility to the managers at the middle level. So the divisional heads can be empowered with decision making authority, by which they are able to concentrate on their department, and top level management will be relieved of the stress of talking.
Decentralization, sorry.
So, on the other hand, decentralization is the process where the top level management disperses the decision making authority to various departmental heads, by which the departmental heads become more capable of taking decisions pertaining to their department. and the top level management will concentrate on major issues alone, by which the organization will grow in a large scale. The next principle is the principle of scalar chain. The principle of scalar chain says the chain of command and chain of communication should flow from the top level to the lower level through prescribed channels of communication. Chain of communication and chain of command. While chain of communication concentrates about the flow of communication, chain of command defines the relationship between various job positions. Who has to receive instructions from whom? Who has to give instructions to whom? So, who is the superior to whom and who is the subordinate to whom? What is the authority of one employee over the other? What is the responsibility of each of the employee will be very well defined in scalar chain. So, in scalar chain, Fayol suggests that communication should flow from the top level to the lower level through prescribed channels of communication, which implies chain of command also. Similarly, the grievances and reports from the lower level to the top level also should flow through proper channels. But sometimes it may so happen that some communications have to be given faster. Some information has to be communicated much faster. If the manager is going to pass on the information through the formal channels of communication, by the time the communication reaches to the appropriate person, there will be a delay in decision making. Therefore, Fayol suggested short circuiting of the communication channel, which is called as gangplank. So, Fayol felt that managers occupying the same job positions can communicate to each other without disturbing the official channels of communication and inform the top level management, what is called as gangplank. So, the process of short circuiting of the communication channels for quick decision making between the managers occupying the same levels of job position is called as gangplank. The next one is the principle of order. The principle of order says everything in its appropriate place. There must be a proper position for everything in the organization. Only then there will be a systematic functioning in the organization. Now, Fayol suggested two types of order, social order and material order. Social order talks about right man in right job. Right man in right job, which means every individual with proper adequate qualification should be given the job for which he is qualified. Only then he can do his work properly. So, a right person should be placed in the right job. Similarly, material order talks about right thing in right place. That means tools and equipment should be at appropriate places, raw material should be at appropriate place, then fuel, everything should be in appropriate places so that there will be no wastage of time in completing a particular job. So, material order talks about right thing in right place and social order talks about right man in right job. The next principle is the principle of equity. Now, the principle of equity says the manager should be impartial towards the employees occupying the same job positions. Two employees appointed at the same level for the same job, for the similar jobs, should be given the same salary, should be given same work treatment, should be treated very well equally. There should be no discrimination between the employees in terms of caste, creed or age or sex or any religious base. The manager should be impartial in treating the employees. The next one is, it is the responsibility of every manager to ensure that the employees stay in the organization for a considerably longer period of time. If the employee is frequently changed from one position to another position, he tends to lose interest in completing the job. So there is a quote saying that Jack of all trades, master of none. So if the employee is frequently transferred from one job to another job, he will not be able to be proficient in any one particular job. No doubt the organization should be indispensable for anybody. Organizational activity should not come to a standstill for want of one employee or two, no doubt at all. Every employee should know every work in the organization is a right policy, no doubt at all. But the frequency with which the employees are shifted should be very carefully monitored. They should not be frequently transferred from one job to another job. Similarly, employees leaving the organization also should be taken very serious note of. Why? Because when an employee leaves the organization, again to hire another employee and train the employee, there will be a delay in completion of the job. And frequently employees leaving the organization also does not give a good picture about the management. So, the manager must ensure that the workers are stable in the organization. The next one is the manager should give adequate liberty to the employees to express their views on completing a particular job. He cannot always think that the subordinate should only listen to whatever has been told to them. They should only do whatever is instructed to them. Then in that case what happens is the organization will not grow. The manager should give sufficient freedom for the employees to bring in their innovations and creativity. So, initiative is a principle which says that the manager should allow the employees to think and be creative, come up with suggestions for betterment of the organization. The last one is esprit de corps. The management should inculcate the feeling of team spirit. The manager must instill the confidence in the minds of the subordinates that the organization will take care of them very well. He has to ensure that there is team spirit in the organization. So the manager should replace I with we. He can no longer say that I will decide. Instead, he has to say that we will decide. Together we will work. In that case, it will really do wonders. My employees feel so happy, so confident, and their morale will improve if they feel that yes, management is there to support me. I have my management to take care of me. That confidence should be instilled in the minds of the subordinates by the manager. That is what is being explained under the principle esprit de corps. So, we have just finished general administrative theory propounded by Henry Fayol. Now, Fayol felt that there should be division of work. The work should be consciously, deliberately divided between the workers in such a way that the worker becomes specialist in completing a particular job. And when he does the work again and again, he tends to be much more creative and innovative in completing the job. Then, Fayol suggested that there should be parity between authority and responsibility. Authority is a right to get the work done by the subordinates, while responsibility is the obligation to complete a given task. Authority and responsibility must go hand in hand. Only then there will be no discrimination at all. The next one is about discipline. Discipline is a principle which says there must be regularity in doing the work. The systematic work should be there in the organization. For that, the manager must make himself to be a role model for completing the job. The next one is the principle of unity of command. The principle of unity of command says the subordinate should receive instructions from only one superior at a time. Only then there will be no chaos or confusion in completing the job. The next one is the principle of unity of direction. The principle of unity of direction says the efforts of all the employees of the organization should be directed towards the achievement of organizational goals. So there should be only one goal that has to be achieved. So one head, one plan, one goal is the motto of unity of direction. The next one is subordination of individual interest to group interest. The employee should always put the organization first than his personal goals. So he cannot think of making any secret profits, or he cannot take anything for his personal gain than to the organizational goals. The next one is remuneration of employees. Employees should be given a fair and just wage. It should be satisfactory to both employer and the employee. What is fair cannot be precisely defined, but a satisfactory wage. While deciding about the employees' wages, the management should take into consideration the cost of living index, then the prevailing industry rate of the wages, qualification of the employees, experience of the employees, type of work, etc. The next one is centralization and decentralization. Centralization is the process of keeping the decision-making authority by itself by the top-level management, while decentralization is a situation where the top-level management disperses the authority of taking decisions to the departmental heads. So, it leads to major disintegration by which more managers can be generated. The next is the principle of scalar chain, which says the chain of communication should flow from the top level to the lower level through prescribed channels of communication. Only then the loss of communication or distortion or rumors can be avoided. However, if any manager wants to communicate to his parallel immediately, he need not have to go through the formal channels of communication to the top level and so. Instead, he can contact the manager of the similar position and take decisions appropriately with the prior information to the top level management. This is called as short circuiting of the communication network, otherwise called as gangplank. This facilitates quick decision making. The next one is the principle of order. Principle of order says everything in its right place. Everything is in its appropriate place. So, that has got two aspects, social order and material order. Social order says every employee should be given a job in proportion to the qualification that he possesses. So, right man in right job. Similarly, material order says about everything should have its correct place in the organization to avoid unnecessary movement of men and material. The next one is the principle of equity. The principle of equity says that equal treatment to all employees occupying the same job position. There should be no discrimination on the basis of age, sex, caste or creed. The next is stability of personnel. Fayol wanted to ensure that the employees stay in the organization and in that particular job position for a considerably longer period of time so that he gains confidence in completing the particular job. This is done to ensure that the organization will be benefited by the services of the employees. The next one is initiative. Fayol felt that the manager cannot be autocratic in taking all the decisions by himself. He should allow the employees to take decisions appropriately. He must encourage the employees to give suggestions for the better productivity in the organization. And the last one is esprit de corps, wherein the manager has to instill the confidence in the minds of the subordinates that the management is there to protect them. The management is there to take care of the employees. And manager must always use the word we in place of I so that the team spirit will be inculcated in the minds of the subordinates. So, the last topic we have is to make a comparison between Taylor and Fayol. Now, both of them are unique in their approach. Taylor believed in application of principles of science in every activity of the employee, while Fayol felt the importance of the top level management. Both cannot be independent, both are complementary to each other. No organization can have exclusively Taylor's principles nor exclusively Fayol's principles. Both the principles are to be administered in the organization. So, they are mutually complementary to each other. One cannot be without the other. Now, let us make a comparison between Taylor's principles and Fayol's principles. Now, on the basis of the perspective, Henry Fayol focused on top-level management, while F.W. Taylor gave more emphasis on the shop floor management. Henry Fayol believed in unity of command very much. He is a strong proponent of unity of command. He felt that for effective communication in the organization, every subordinate should receive instructions from only one superior at a time. But Taylor gave least significance to the principle of unity of command. He believed that one individual will not have all the capabilities of a good manager. He believed in specializing people with single line of activity, and the worker to receive instructions from different specialists for the completion of the job. Then, the application of principle of management propounded by Henry Fayol is universal. So, universally we find the principles of management, say unity of command or unity of direction or scalar chain, etc. are applicable, whereas Taylor's principles are applicable in specific situations only. Where more of factory setup is there, it is applicable. Coming to next one, basis of formation. Fayol's principles are completely drawn by observation. This is not evolved by any other mode but for observation. Whereas Taylor's principles are drawn by observation and experimentation also. Fayol drew most of the principles on the basis of personal experience, while Taylor believed and realized the principles by observation and experimentation. The next one is the focus of Henry Fayol. The principles formulated by Henry Fayol is on overall general administration, while F.W. Taylor focused on increasing the productivity of the organization. Fayol was a general practitioner, while Taylor was a scientist by profession. Then, expression, it is called as general theory of management, and Taylor's principles are called as scientific theory of management. So, we understood that Taylor and Fayol are very unique in their line of activities, but both the principles are complementary to each other. Now, a quick recap of the whole lesson. What did we discuss? So, we started with what do you mean by a principle? Any principle is a matter of fundamental truth. Principles of management are the general guidelines upon which any managerial decisions are taken. Principles of science are very rigid and they keep one element constant and making many other elements as variable. Whereas principles of management cannot be rigid because they involve human beings. The next one is principles and techniques are not one and the same. Principles are matter of fundamental truth, while techniques give the way in which an activity has to be completed. Principles and values are also not one and the same. Principles have a basic ground rule and they are drawn by observation, analysis and experimentation, while values are accepted beliefs or accepted connotations only. Then, coming to the nature of principles of management, principles of management have universal applicability. Normal organization, government or private organization, India or any other country, principles of management have universal applicability. All the principles of management provide only general guidelines. They do not keep the managers into a rigid jacket. All the principles of management are drawn by observation and experimentation. All the principles of management are mainly behavioral in nature. They try to influence the behavior of the people and it varies from one person to another person. Principles of management are contingent, that is they are situation specific. They can be amended to the given situation. Why are principles of management very important? Why is it necessary for the manager to understand the importance of principles of management? By understanding the principles of management, a manager is able to have a useful insight into reality. By understanding the principles of management, manager is able to optimize the resources and make the best use of the resources. There is an effective administration also. Taylor suggested certain principles, namely science not a rule of thumb. He felt that application of principles of science is very much essential than hit and rule method or trial and error method. Then he believed that there must be harmonious working environment in the organization. There should be mutual understanding and happiness between the employer and the employee. There must be perfect cooperation between the employer and the employees, cooperation and not individualism. Then Taylor suggested that each and every employee is able to put in his optimum use, the maximum capacity. Fullest satisfaction should be ensured by the employees. So, every employee should realize his potential. He has to work to realize his fullest potential. Then Taylor suggested certain techniques of management. Taylor did not believe in one individual giving all the instructions. So, Taylor felt that there should be a separation between planning and production department. Planning headed by planning in charge with 4 specialists under him, and production department headed by production in charge with 4 specialists. Each specialist is special in his own way. He is going to formulate policies to the given job, then give instructions to the ultimate worker. So the subordinate will be receiving instruction from 8 superiors at the same time and complete the work, and there will be no overlapping of the authority of one over the other. So that way it is good. The next is Taylor believed in standardization of the procedures, right from recruitment of people to the tools and equipment that are being used, etc. Everywhere standards should be maintained. Only then the actuals can be compared, and it will lead to an objective approach to the activities. Simplification is the process of reducing the load into small achievable units. Then Taylor believed in differential piece rate system, wherein he suggested 2 different wage systems, one for the employees who are producing higher number of units and the other one for the ones who are producing less number of units. Taylor did not advocate minimum wage payment at all, but he believed that by giving more wages, the workers are motivated to produce more. Then Taylor advocated scientific work study, in which he is focused about one best way of doing the job, that is a method study. Then Taylor used the stop clock to establish standard time for completing a work by a worker of average ability. Then Taylor used the symbols, then flashcards and motion camera to monitor closely the movement of the employees, which are classified into productive, unproductive and incidental motions. By using proper techniques, incidental motions should be reduced and unnecessary or unproductive motions are eliminated for the productive motions to be successful. Then fatigue study is a study which is conducted to monitor the frequency of rest intervals required by the workers. When the workers are given sufficient rest intervals, they tend to regain stamina and produce to the fullest extent. Now these are the techniques suggested by F.W. Taylor. Taylor believed in mental revolution. He felt that there must be transformation of the mindset between the employer and the employee. Employer can no longer think that whatever he decides should be followed by the employee, and the employee should not think that management is trying to impose many things on them. There must be perfect understanding between the employer and the employee. Going to the next one is the theory propounded by Henry Fayol on general administration. Fayol focused his attention mainly on the job of the top level management. He believed that if the top management is strong, then the organization as a whole will be positive. Now, he propounded 14 principles of management. He felt that there should be division of work. Only when the work is divided into many subordinates into small units, each one will do the work with confidence, the work of the organization will be completed. How much ever capable a manager may be, he cannot do all the work by himself. Therefore, we all have the suggested division of work. Now, extension of division of work is delegation, that is authority and responsibility. Authority and responsibility are two sides of a coin. Authority is the right to get the work done by the subordinates, while responsibility is the obligation on the part of the subordinate to complete the job. They both should go hand in hand, only then the work will be completed. The principle of unity of command says that the subordinate should receive instructions only from one superior at a time to avoid chaos and confusion. The principle of unity of direction says the work of the employee should be directed towards the achievement of organizational goals. They should not think of their personal goals. The next is subordination of individual interest to group interest. Employee should prioritize the achievement of organizational goals before thinking of achieving his personal goals. He must not make any secret profit which will be against the interest of the organization as a whole. The principle of discipline says that there should be orderliness in the functioning of the organization. To bring in orderliness, the manager should set himself to be a role model. Then, the principle of remuneration of personnel says that the wages paid to the employees should be at par with the industry, should be equal to the work done by the employee or according to the qualification of the employee. Then, the principle of order says that there must be a place for everything at an appropriate position only. So, right people should be appointed in the right place, right things should be equipped in the right place. So, that is social order and material order. Then, stability of personnel. The principle of stability of personnel says that employees should not be frequently transferred from one job position to another job position. He will lose interest in learning the job. Ultimately, the organization will suffer. He should be given sufficient time to settle and learn a job in a particular job position. The principle of centralization and decentralization says the extent of authority, decision-making authority by the management. If the top-level management feels that all the major decision-making authority should be vested only with the top-level management, then the concentration of the power will be only at the top level. On the other hand, if the top-level management is dynamic in their approach, they want to disintegrate the authority responsibility to different departmental heads, then that situation is called as a decentralization. It's called as decentralization, wherein the top-level management reduces its workload and allows the managers at different levels to take appropriate decisions. The principle of initiative says the manager should allow the employees to be creative, to bring in more suggestions for the betterment of the organization. The principle of equity says that there should be no disparity between the employees occupying the same job positions on any terms. The manager must treat all the employees occupying the same job position equally. And the last one says esprit de corps, wherein the manager has to instill confidence that the management is there to support the employees. The manager should ensure that the job of the employee is secured. The management is there to protect the employees. And the manager should replace the word I with we, so that together the organizational goals can be achieved. Now the last topic is, we are going to make a comparison between Taylor's principles and Fayol's principles. Each one is very good in their line of activity, but one cannot exist without that of the other. The principles of scientific management and principles of general administration are complementary to each other. So when we are going to make a comparison between Fayol and Taylor, we found that Fayol is focusing on top-level management while Taylor focused on top-floor management. Fayol's principles are universally applicable while Taylor's principles are applicable in given specific situations. Then Taylor believed in increasing productivity while Fayol focused on improving the overall administration. Fayol was a practitioner while Taylor was a scientist, and Taylor's principles are called as scientific management while Fayol's principles are called as general administration theory. Fayol's principles are drawn by personal observation, while Taylor's principles are drawn by observation, analysis, and experimentation. So we have concluded this lesson. We shall be discussing about case study questions in the next session. Namaste.